Firstly, it is such a pleasure to connect with all of you, in a physical event, face to face. It's such a welcome relief. And thank you so much to all of you for all your wholehearted participation. Now, as Satrajit said, the theme of the event today is Decoding CX Summit. And if you look into the meaning of summit, is essentially it is a confluence of leaders of organizations that you represent who can get together and deep dive and understand this term which is CX. So together we will decode what is CX. Okay. So with that, let's get started. Now, what I will start with is showcase some very interesting numbers out here. Okay. Now, this is essentially, Adobe had commissioned Forrester to conduct a global study of organizations who are investing in experience and evaluate what is the impact it has on their own businesses. Now, some interesting insights came out. Now, for the companies who actually invested in experience, not only they got superior performance in increasing their revenue and increasing CLTV, but also it helped them improve employee satisfaction. 1.5x employee satisfaction. Now, a happy employee equals to a happy customer. It could be a correlation or causal, but something of a fact which cannot be ignored, right? And likewise, 1.6x brand awareness, 36% faster revenue growth rates, right? So it is very clear that companies who invest in experience is actually good for your own business. Now, let's start with the CX lesson. I'll give you all 10 seconds to see this and then a question to the audience. Can anybody guess who is the leader who mentioned this? Excellent, excellent. So, and this is a very, very important lesson which Mr. Mahatma Gandhiji, a father of our nation, has given us. He says that customer is the most important visitor, right? And when a customer visits our premises, our digital properties, our stores, we call our call center or any touch point they engage with us, right? They are actually doing a favor on us, right? The customer is telling us, know me, serve me, give me better experiences, right? So all the opportunities which we have when the customer engages with you across any touch point, right? So why don't we leverage those opportunities? So essentially, it all starts and ends with the customer, right? But then the customer is present everywhere. The experiences happen everywhere, right? Now, there are some facts which you would have heard, across many papers you would have read or events you would have attended. People talking about numbers like more than 70% of shoppers have changed or are willing to change the behavior when they are shopping on the site. More than 40% of customers have actually changed the retailers they were shopping with, pre the experience which those retailers offer to them. And similarly, there was another survey which was conducted by Forrester where they say that more than 46% of companies who have invested in analytics are rather predominantly now focusing on the omni-channel view of the customer so that they can do customer journey analytics, which clearly means that the industry is no more focusing predominantly on acquisition analytics but majorly on retention analytics, right? Now let me put in a perspective which Harvard Business Review has shared, where it says that omni-channel experiences should be at the core of the corporate strategy, okay? And to do that, you need to work on customer data at scale, and it requires the usage of AI to understand, shape, customize and optimize the customer journey, right? So clearly an indicator to have an omni-channel view of the customer and hence perform customer journey analytics. And if we all agree over here that customer journey analytics is important, we need to give the best of experiences, consistent experience, continuous experience to customers who are engaging with you on digital properties. Then what is the inhibition right now? What are the challenges which the customers today are facing to be able to do that effectively and efficiently, right? Now, what you see over here is something which you can relate when you look back at the processes which you follow, right? Now, what a lot of people popularly call this, it's a ring around the office, right? Where when a stakeholder or a business guy comes up with a requirement where he wants to get some insights out of the data, what he or she would typically do would go to the BI team. Now, BI team is already overburdened with lots and lots of requests. In a typical day, that request will go and sit in a queue. Then whenever that service request comes up, I already see some gigglings there. Whenever that comes up, then it starts getting serviced, okay? And when it gets serviced, the step one would be let's extract the data, which is sitting in multiple systems. Then once that raw data gets extracted, then what next? I have to build visualization on top of it. Now the visualization which comes out may be not acceptable to the business guy. It then goes into a loop, and then some point of time, though that report, that insight comes up, that could span across days, that could span across weeks. Now, you and me as a digital marketeer or a business owner or that CX experience owner can we afford to wait for some action or actionable intelligence to be taken for weeks or so? The answer is absolutely no, right? But then what are the reasons why this is the nature? What are the reasons why these challenges are being witnessed by organizations? It spreads across these key 4 points, right? Data is residing in silos. Data for each of the channels is sitting in its own set of silos, and that data is not purpose built for a business user to be able to consume those insights. That data is not carrying that semantic layer for a business user to understand and comprehend. Now let's say if we solve that problem, then the next level of challenge is how would that very business user or stakeholder get insights out of that data? Is that capability of deriving insights, performing that diagnostic analytics is actually enabled and empowered to the business user to deep dive into that millions and billions of rows of records to get that kind of insight which he's looking for? Let's say we solve that as well. But then, as we saw a couple of slides earlier, that the journey is spanning across multiple channels. Now, how do you bring in that data across multiple channels, stitch that data together and get an omni-channel complete journey view of the customers? And let's say if we do that as well, then how do you can perform that similar all 3 levels of deep dive insight on those millions and billions of transactions which are happening on your digital properties without having the power of AI, without having the power of scale and automation which AI brings in, where you can perform the segmentation which you want to perform. You can do the journey intelligence which you want to perform. You want to do that attribution, across the various marketing spend which you're doing, so that you can easily get actionable insight on which you take the next decision. And if that doesn't happen, the natural cause is basically losing brand interest and all the shortage of NPS or CSAT or whatever the brands typically monitor. So then what should be a optimized workflow looking like? The real workflow which can actually give you results should start with that same very stakeholder actually going to the customer analytics, journey analytics platform, be able to perform ad hoc query, okay, and on an interface which is GUI driven, which is intuitive, which is user friendly and easy to comprehend, so that the stakeholder can create his own kind of analysis, okay. and then he should be able to not just do it on a certain channel of data, but be able to stitch that data across multiple channels, okay, and then run out of the box, AI driven segmentation or even outlier analysis, where if there are any anomalies reflecting in the data, how do you actually see the contribution of attributes which are actually causing that kind of anomaly and take actions on top of it, right? And similarly, the attribution, and then more importantly, take immediate actions on top of it. And this then becomes the right loop of action which should be actually running in your offices. Okay, let's take an example of a real life customer who is actually interacting through the journey of his buying cycle. Let's say that person is Rahul, who's in the market for, by the way, it had to be Rahul, right? So a glimpse of my acting skills. So Rahul is in the market for a new car purchase, okay, and this is the kind of cycle he's going through, where he's discovering, researching, getting into the dealer experience. Now at every point of the journey, what if you have a capability like customer journey analytics, where the moment where he's engaging with your property, where you do not know about him, but you can still capture all the behavioral aspects on your digital property. As soon as an identity has been exchanged, you can actually join that, stitch that, and get better view of that customer through the CRM. And then when he engages with your call center to get more details, you can bring in those elements as well. And then when he steps into the dealer and actually experiences the car and model which he's seeing, stitch that as well. And then maybe he would want to kind of look some third party views, and eventually going into the purchase cycle. And across all of that, if you can actually have a journey view of Rahul, that very Rahul, you know what is the kind of experience he expects and what is the kind of experience you can extend, right? So, what would then Adobe Customer Journey Analytics do for you? We saw that example. Now, I already explained, what could be the difference from BI standpoint, keeping tap on the time. But let me give you a quick glimpse in terms of how does it compare with the traditional digital analytics, solution, right? It definitely goes beyond digital channels. We're not just talking of web, we're not talking of mobile here, but we are also talking of your stores, we are talking of call center interaction, we are talking of any interaction where the customer is engaging with your own set of brand, right? Now, in case if you want to do those kind of analysis, you cannot have variable limits. You cannot define that I can only do this analysis on X number of variables, because every channel where he interacts with will demand its own set of attributes, right? And then obviously you cannot have limits on the data or do sampling, because now you are doing that journey analytics view at a customer level, at that very Rahul level, where you are doing that person-centric analytics, okay? And then now you would not want to be restricted even to a certain horizon of data, where you would want to actually extend that horizon to years, wherein you can be able to reinstate that data into your experience platform, where you can do that kind of analysis. And more importantly, the kind of attribution which you are doing on that data has to be very neutral, because there will be aspects that same very Rahul would have come through a Facebook site and a Google site and did a search, would you be giving the last touch attribution to every such impression interaction that happened? Or will you give a weighted average to, even the call center when he interacted with, even the dealer experience which he interacted with, which actually influenced that buying purchase? So essentially, the capability of attribution should go beyond the last touch world to the capabilities which a typical platform like an CCA can extend. And more importantly, there should be no conflict of interest, because you would not want that same very Rahul who has come to your property, an indicator given to all the competitors over there, that there you go, there is a Rahul guy, or there is one person who is actually on the lookout of buying a car, right? And that becomes all the more important, that you actually invest in a platform which is neutral and which can actually give you a complete neutral view to performing analytics of the nature of simple, powerful, robust, seamless, scalable. Now, to make it even more sweet and to make it even more powerful, customer journey analytics comes with an experience data model which actually brings in a lot of out of the box attributes or capabilities and entities which you would require as a customer, but at the same time it is open and extensible, so that as and when more channels or touch points actually increase of your engagement, you can extensively increase that data model and be able to cater to the dynamism which your business brings in, right? Now, let me give you an example of a real life customer. Now, this customer actually is a software giant, okay? And that software giant itself has a lot of data and analytics applications, but in spite of having those present, still they invested with Adobe. And that customer is none other than Microsoft. And all of us are engaged with Microsoft in some capacity or the other. Now, I will not go into the details of the use case because I think we have fallen short of time and we have some very interesting conversations going to happen beyond this. But Microsoft realized value with customer journey analytics because they were spending to the extent of $1,500 per business problem they were trying to solve. Now that investment spread across effort which they had to put through the data engineering team to bring in the data, to create that pipelines, the data science team to create that standardization and create those queries, the reporting team who had to create the visualization. All could be done in a very seamless way on a customer journey analytics. Imagine if Microsoft is solving even 1,000 questions in a year. We are talking of a $1.5 million ROI straight away, right? So that's the power of customer journey analytics, and there are many such customers across various industries who are getting benefit out of it. And it's not just we saying and our customers saying. There are third-party validations who are talking about this. And Adobe, as an analytics player, has been on the leaders quadrant for many years. But these are those specific aspects which Adobe brings in from a journey analytics perspective is further kind of making us grow up in the leaders quadrant across all the analysis. Now, with that, again another question. The first one almost everyone could answer. Let me see if this one you could answer. Which is the key technology priority in 2022? So this is as per kind of digital trends report which was done, and the no surprises. It's basically data and insights, okay, and customer journey analysis, right? So with that, I would request all of you to press the button on customer journey analytics, which most of our customers sweetly call it as CJA, and will in this experience era, right? With that, I conclude my presentation today. I don't know if I overshot on time or whether we have time for questions. I think we are already overshot. But nonetheless, I will be here across the evening and would love to interact with each of you, build on some of these insights, would like to discuss with you the experiences which you are today witnessing within your organization, build on that and see how we can partner. With that, thank you so much. Thanks for being a lovely audience and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.